Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
Michael Reeves stood in the kitchen, methodically arranging a platter of hors d'oeuvres. His movements were precise, each canopy placed with surgical accuracy. To any observer, he appeared the picture of calm concentration, but behind his steely gray eyes, a storm raged. 16 years. 16 years of lies, deceit, and betrayal. The thought made his hand twitch, nearly causing him to drop an olive. He caught it smoothly, his reflexes honed by years in the operating room. No one would suspect the turmoil beneath his placid exterior. Not his wife. Not his children. Not the guests who would soon fill their home with laughter and congratulations. Especially not his wife. "Dad, where do you want these streamers?" Ethan's voice broke through Michael's reverie. At 15, his eldest son was all limbs, lanky, awkward, a bundle of elbows and knees. Michael felt a pang as he looked at the boy. How much of himself did he see in Ethan? How much was just wishful thinking? Along the banister, "Son, your mother always likes them there." Ethan nodded and bounded off, nearly colliding with his sister Sophia as she came from the living room. "Careful, doofus," Sophia muttered, her tone laced with practiced teenage disdain. At 13, she was already fluent in eye rolls and sighs. Then she turned to Michael. "Dad, is this okay?" She held up a glittery homemade banner reading "Happy Anniversary, Mom and Dad." Michael forced a smile. "It's perfect, sweetheart. Your mother will love it." Sophia beamed and retreated to hang the banner. 10-year-old Lucas poked his head around the corner. "Can I blow up more balloons, Dad?" Michael nodded, his throat suddenly tight. "Go ahead, buddy. Just don't make yourself dizzy." As the sounds of his children's preparations filled the house, Michael returned to his task. The facade must be perfect. Every detail in place. He'd had months to plan this moment. Months to ensure that when it came, there would be no escape for Olivia. The doorbell rang, signaling the arrival of the first guests. Michael straightened his tie and pasted on a warm, welcoming smile. Showtime. He moved through the growing crowd, shaking hands and accepting congratulations. But his ears were tuned for one particular type of conversation. He didn't have to wait long. "Another conference next month, I swear. Olivia's always jetting off somewhere with that handsome colleague of hers. What's his name again? Daniel. Lucky her. If I had to choose between trauma shifts and exotic locales with a charming coworker, I know what I'd pick." Michael's jaw clenched, but his smile never faltered. He'd heard variations of that conversation for months. It didn't matter. Not tonight. Tonight, everything would change. His eyes swept the room, lingering on a few seemingly unremarkable faces, a balding man nervously sipping champagne. A woman with striking green eyes glancing at her watch. A broad-shouldered man laughing too loudly at a stranger's joke. To everyone else, they were just acquaintances. To Michael, they were the final pieces of his plan. Olivia made her entrance, radiant in a shimmering black dress. The room applauded. Michael raised his glass in a toast, locking eyes with her. For a fleeting moment, he saw unease flicker in her gaze. Good. Let her wonder. The real celebration had yet to begin. The party was in full swing. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air. Michael stood near the fireplace, nursing a glass of scotch he had no intention of drinking. His gaze never left Olivia. Her smile, her laughter, her graceful movements through the crowd. All eyes, every gesture, every loving glance, every squeeze of his hand. All carefully curated deception. Michael's grip on the glass tightened. It was time. With deliberate calm, he set down his drink and picked up a serving spoon, tapping it against his glass. The clear chime cut through the noise. All eyes turned toward him. "Friends, family," Michael began, his voice warm and steady. "Olivia and I can't thank you enough for being here tonight. 16 years of marriage is no small feat, and we're blessed to have such wonderful people to share it with." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Olivia beamed, the picture of devoted wifehood. Michael swallowed his disgust. "But tonight isn't just about Olivia and me," he continued. "It's about family. And what better way to celebrate family than with gifts?" He turned toward his children, who had gathered near their mother. "Ethan, Sophia, Lucas, come here, please." They exchanged curious glances and stepped forward. "I know it's not your birthday," Michael said with a chuckle, drawing light laughter from the guests, "but your mother and I have a very special surprise for each of you." He reached behind the mantel and pulled out 3 elegantly wrapped boxes. The room quieted. "Go ahead," he urged. "Open them." With varying degrees of excitement and confusion, the children tore into their gifts. Michael watched, not their hands, but their faces. Every flicker of recognition, every wince of confusion. Ethan was the first to speak. "Dad, what is this?" he asked, holding up a sleek white box marked with a familiar logo, a popular DNA testing company. Sophia and Lucas were staring at similar kits, their brows furrowed. Michael's voice dropped, cold and clear. "Those are DNA test kits. But don't worry, we won't need to use them." He paused. "I already did." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Olivia stepped forward, her face pale. "Michael, what are you?" He raised a hand, silencing her. "There's more to your gifts, kids," he said. "Look in the bottom of the boxes." Trembling hands reached inside. Each child pulled out a photograph. Strangers' faces. Men they'd never seen before. Michael's voice cut through the stunned silence. "Meet your biological fathers," he said, his voice like steel. "They're eager to know you." The room erupted. Olivia screamed, a sound of pure anguish and rage. Guests whispered, some bolting for the exits, others frozen in disbelief. Michael's eyes stayed on the only people who mattered in that moment. The children. Not his children. Never his children. Ethan stumbled backward, dropping the kit and photo. Sophia burst into tears. Lucas stood frozen, eyes wide and pleading. "Dad," he whispered. I don't understand." Michael swallowed hard. The bitterness, the grief, the betrayal, it all threatened to rise, but he kept his tone level. "I'm sorry, Lucas. I'm not your dad. I was never any of your dads. Ask your mother about the conferences with Daniel. Ask her about the lies she's told for 15 years. Olivia lunged forward, her perfectly styled hair now a mess. "You stupid," she shrieked. "How could you do this? How could you hurt our children like this?" He turned to her, face unreadable. "Our children," he repeated, voice deadly quiet. "You made that choice a long time ago." Michael's laugh echoed through the room. Empty, bitter. "That is rich, Olivia. Tell me, how long have you known? Did you ever intend to tell me? Or was I just a convenient fool to pay for everything?" The room fell into a deafening silence. All eyes darted between Michael and Olivia. The children huddled together, Sophia sobbing into Ethan's chest while Lucas clung tightly to his sister's hand. "Mom." Ethan's voice cracked. "Is it true?" Olivia's face crumpled. She reached for her son, but he flinched away. "Ethan, baby, I can explain." "Explain what?" Michael snapped. "Explain how you have been lying to all of us for years. Explain how you have been sleeping with other men behind my back. Or maybe explain how you let me raise 3 children believing they were mine, when you knew damn well they were not." He turned to the stunned crowd. "Oh, and let us not forget our special guests. You 3, he said, pointing at what appeared to be random acquaintances Olivia had insisted on inviting. "Congratulations. You are the fathers." Surprise. The balding man who had been nursing a glass of champagne all evening went pale. The woman with striking green eyes gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as she turned to stare at her stunned husband. The broad-shouldered man with the beard took a step forward, his eyes fixed on Sophia. "Is she?" he began, unable to finish the sentence. Michael nodded solemnly. "DNA does not lie, unlike some people in this room." Olivia, who had stood frozen in disbelief, suddenly lunged at Michael. Her manicured nails raked across his face. "You son of a... How dare you? How dare you?" Guests rushed to restrain her, pulling her away as she screamed and sobbed uncontrollably. Michael remained still, unmoved by her hysterics. He had anticipated this. What he had not prepared for was the look in his children's eyes, betrayal, confusion, and pain. For a moment, his resolve faltered. Then he remembered. He remembered the nights spent poring over credit card statements, the hours wasted analyzing phone records, the gut-wrenching moment when the first DNA test results came back. No, there was no turning back now. As the chaos settled into a stunned, uneasy silence, Michael moved with purpose. He retrieved a manila envelope from his study, ignoring the whispers and stares that followed him. Olivia had collapsed onto the sofa, mascara streaking her cheeks as she alternated between sobbing and shooting daggers at him with her glare. He approached her, his face expressionless. "Here," he said, dropping the envelope into her lap. "Divorce papers. I will not finance the education of children who are not mine." Olivia's head snapped up, fresh horror dawning across her face. "Michael, please," she whispered. "We can talk about this. We can fix it. Fix it." His laugh was cold and hollow. There is nothing to fix, Olivia. It has been over for months. You just did not know it. He turned to address the room. His voice cut through the air with clinical precision. For those of you wondering how long I have known, the answer is 5 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. That is when I first suspected. But suspicion was not enough. I needed proof. He began to pace, falling into the calm, authoritative tone he used when lecturing medical students. It started with little things. Odd charges on the credit card. Suspicious phone calls. Conferences that seemed to pop up with increasing frequency. But the final piece? A chance encounter with an old friend who mentioned seeing Olivia at a restaurant in Boston on a weekend she was supposedly in Chicago. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Olivia had curled into herself, the divorce papers clenched tightly in her fists. That is when I hired private investigators. Plural. Because one was not enough to track all of Olivia's activities. And let me tell you, they earned every penny. His gaze scanned the room, landing on each of the men he had identified as the biological fathers of the children. You gentlemen might want to check your bank accounts. You have some back child support to pay. The balding man sputtered, while his wife glared at him with murderous rage. The bearded man sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. The third man, standing beside the green-eyed woman, looked ready to bolt. As for the DNA tests, Michael continued, those were more complicated. But you would be surprised what a few stray hairs and some discreet lab work can accomplish. I had to be certain, beyond any shadow of a doubt, because I knew that when this moment came, Olivia would deny everything. She would lie, like she has been lying for years. He turned back to his wife, who had now stood, the papers clutched to her chest like a shield. Go on, Olivia. Tell them I am lying. Tell our guests, tell our children this is all some elaborate hoax. Olivia opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an ally and finding none. That is what I thought, Michael said softly. He moved toward the door, pausing to look at his children huddled together by the fireplace. Ethan, Sophia, Lucas, I am sorry. You did not deserve this. None of this is your fault. I hope one day you will understand why I had to do this. As he reached for the doorknob, Olivia found her voice at last. Michael, wait. She stumbled toward him, reaching out. Please, we can work this out. Think of the children. Michael's hand froze on the doorknob. For a moment, it seemed he might turn back. But then his shoulders squared. I have thought of the children, Olivia. I have thought of nothing else for months. And I realized something, the best thing I can do for them is to show them that actions have consequences. That lies, no matter how long they are told, eventually come to light. He opened the door. Cool night air swept inside. Goodbye, Olivia. I am sure your lawyer will be in touch with mine. And with that, Michael Reeves walked out of the house he had called home for 16 years. Behind him, he left a scene of devastation, a shattered family, destroyed trust, illusions torn apart. As he climbed into his car, already packed with essential belongings, Michael allowed himself one moment of doubt. One brief instant to wonder if he had done the right thing. But as he started the engine and pulled away, he pushed the doubt aside. The truth was out. The lies were exposed. The pain was immense, but necessary. A clean break. A cauterized wound. It would heal. It had to. In his rearview mirror, Olivia stood framed in the doorway, her figure shrinking as he drove away. For a fleeting second, he remembered the young woman he had once fallen in love with. The dreams they had shared. The life they had built. But that life had been a mirage. A beautiful, intricate lie. And now, as Michael Reeves drove into an uncertain future, he clung to the only thing he had left, the truth. No matter how ugly. No matter how painful. It was all he had. Your colleagues are concerned about working with you. The board is worried about potential lawsuits. Michael's jaw clenched. He had anticipated professional fallout, but the reality of it still stung. What are you saying, Eleanor? We are not firing you, Dr. Patel said quickly. Your surgical record speaks for itself, but we are placing you on administrative leave, effective immediately. Take some time, Michael. Deal with your personal issues. When things have calmed down, we will reassess. As Michael left the boardroom, he felt the weight of every gaze following him. Some colleagues looked at him with sympathy, others with judgment. All of them were watching, curious to see how the great Dr. Reeves would handle his fall from grace. Meanwhile, across the city at Olivia's law firm, a different kind of reckoning was unfolding. Olivia sat in the conference room, her usually flawless appearance in complete disarray. Her managing partner, Richard, paced in front of her, his face darkened with fury and disappointment. Do you have any idea, he growled, how much damage control we are going to have to do. We represent some of the most conservative clients in the state. Olivia, they are not going to want to cheat her? Olivia supplied bitterly. Richard winced. I was not going to say that. But you were thinking it, she snapped. Just like everyone else. Damn it, Olivia. Richard slammed his palm on the table. This is not just about you. Your actions have put this entire firm at risk. We are initiating an ethics investigation. Until it is concluded, you are suspended, no contact with clients, no access to case files. Olivia's world, already crumbling, lurched again beneath her feet. Richard, please. I need this job. The kids, you should have thought of that before you decided to play musical beds. Richard cut her off coldly. Clean out your office. Security will escort you out. As Olivia was led through the building, clutching a cardboard box filled with her personal belongings, she spotted a familiar face among the gawking onlookers. Daniel, her co-worker, her former lover, quickly averted his gaze and turned away, retreating without a word. Abandoned again. Back at the Reeves household, Ethan was doing his best to comfort his younger siblings when his phone buzzed with a message. It was from his best friend, Jake. Dude, are you coming to school? Everyone is talking about it. Ethan's stomach twisted. School. He had completely forgotten in the whirlwind of the past 24 hours. The thought of facing his classmates, their stares, their whispers made him nauseous. But then he glanced at Sophia and Lucas. If this was hard for him, how much worse must it be for them? He took a steadying breath and replied, Yeah, we'll be there. As he helped his brother and sister get ready, bracing himself for the humiliation ahead, Ethan could not stop wondering, where is Dad? What is he doing? Does he even care about the destruction he left behind? Across town, in a modest one-bedroom apartment he had rented months earlier in preparation for this very moment, Michael Reeves stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. The face looking back at him was haggard, with sunken eyes and weary lines from a sleepless night. For a moment, doubt crept in. Had I done the right thing? The image of his children's devastated faces flashed through his mind. Then came the memories, the years of deception, the mounting lies, the rage. A new wave of resolve surged through him. He adjusted his tie and grabbed his car keys. He might be on administrative leave, but there were always hospitals in need of a skilled surgeon. Places that would overlook scandal in exchange for talent in the operating room. As he stepped outside, Michael's phone buzzed with a breaking news alert, another story about the Reeves family implosion. He turned it off without reading it. The truth was out. The inferno was spreading, and Michael Reeves was determined to rise from the ashes, even if it meant burning everything else to the ground. Back in the office of her attorney, Olivia sat slumped in a chair, her once pristine appearance now reduced to a shadow of its former self. Dark circles ringed her eyes, and her unwashed hair hung limp. She clutched a cup of coffee like a lifeline, her knuckles white around the styrofoam. We need to go on the offensive, her lawyer, Patricia, a sharp-eyed, ruthless woman, was saying. Your husband has cast you as the villain. We need to flip the narrative. Olivia gave a bitter laugh. And how exactly do we do that? In case you have not noticed, I am not exactly the sympathetic one in this mess. Patricia's smile was icy and calculated. We make you the victim, a woman trapped in a loveless marriage, emotionally abused by a controlling man who was more devoted to his job than to his family. That is not true, Olivia protested softly. Michael was. He was a good husband. Was he? Patricia leaned in. Think, Olivia. All those late nights at the hospital. Missed anniversaries. The way he brushed you off when you tried to talk about your feelings. We can spin this. Olivia hesitated. It was not entirely false. There had been times when Michael's career left her feeling invisible. But to twist that into abuse. And the affairs? She asked. The DNA tests? A cry for attention from a desperate woman, Patricia said with a wave of her hand. And as for the DNA tests, that is where the medical malpractice comes in. Malpractice? Olivia's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Think about it, Patricia urged. A respected surgeon suddenly acting erratically, conducting unauthorized DNA tests, making wild accusations. Who is to say he has not made mistakes in the operating room too? We will demand a review of his recent surgeries. Plant the seed of doubt. Olivia felt sick. This was wrong, deeply wrong. But then she thought of her children, of the mountain of debt, of the whispers and stares that followed her everywhere she went. She took a breath. Do it, she said quietly. Whatever it takes. Across town, Michael Reeves was fighting his own battle. He sat in a dimly lit room surrounded by audio recording equipment. Across from him sat a nervous man fidgeting in his chair. "You understand what I am asking you to do?" Michael's voice was calm, almost gentle. The man nodded hesitantly. "Yeah, but if Olivia finds out, she will not," Michael assured him. "Not if you follow the plan. Just tell the truth, Gary. That is all I am asking." Gary, one of Olivia's former lovers, swallowed hard. "And you swear this will not blow back on me? I have a wife. Kids. You have my word," Michael said solemnly. "Your identity will be protected. I just need your testimony to counter Olivia's lies." With a shaky sigh, Gary nodded. "Okay, let's do this." As he began recounting the details of his affair with Olivia, the time she lied to Michael, the things she said about her marriage, Michael felt a grim sense of satisfaction. One by one, her lovers were turning against her, choosing self-preservation over loyalty to a woman who had shown none herself. But even as he built his case, collected evidence, and prepared for battle, Michael could not escape a sinking feeling. He was losing something essential, something that might never return. That feeling only deepened later that week, when he received a call from his attorney. "Michael, we have a problem," his lawyer said, voice tight with concern. "Olivia has filed a malpractice suit against you. She is claiming your personal issues have affected your professional performance. There is going to be an investigation into your recent surgeries." Michael's blood turned cold. His work, his calling, was sacred. The operating room, his sanctuary. The one place Michael had always been able to count on to lose himself when everything else fell apart. And now even that was being called into question. "That is ridiculous," he snapped. "My personal life has never affected my performance in the operating room." "I believe you," his lawyer said gently. "But we need to take this seriously." If even one patient comes forward with complications, Michael's mind began to race. Every surgery, every procedure from the past year flashed through his thoughts. Had he missed something? Overlooked a detail in a moment of distraction? No. He was certain he had done everything by the book. But certainty might not be enough. As he hung up the phone, a new text message appeared on his screen. It was from Ethan. "Leave us alone. We do not want to talk to you." The words pierced him like a knife. He had expected this, had prepared himself for it, but the reality was far more painful than he could have imagined. With trembling fingers, he typed a response. "I understand. I am here if you change your mind." The reply came almost instantly. "We will not." Michael set the phone down, the weight of his decisions pressing heavily on his chest. He had known there would be casualties in this war. He just had not expected how deeply it would hurt to watch them fall. Meanwhile, in the pristine corridors of St. Mary's Hospital, a different kind of tension was brewing. Nurse Sarah Chun hurried down the hallway, her mind reeling. She had seen something she should not have seen. Dr. Olivia Reeves and Dr. Daniel Foster, the researcher, in the pharmacy after hours. The way they jumped apart when she entered, the guilty expressions on their faces. And then there were the financial discrepancies in the research funding reports she had been asked to file, small irregularities, nothing obvious, but Sarah had a sharp mind for numbers. And something was not adding up. She had dismissed it at first. Dr. Reeves was respected. Dr. Foster was poised to make a breakthrough. But now, with the scandal surrounding the Reeves family, she could not shake the feeling that she had stumbled onto something far more serious and far more dangerous. As she rounded a corner, she nearly collided with Dr. Foster himself. He caught her arm lightly, his smile too smooth, too practiced. "Careful there, Sarah," he said. "Would not want any accidents, would we?" Sarah's blood ran cold. As he walked away, she made up her mind. She needed to speak to someone. Someone who would understand the weight of what she had seen. She needed to talk to Dr. Michael Reeves. Michael stood in the operating room, his hands steady as he made the first incision. This was where he belonged. Where life and death were tangible, where skill mattered more than reputation. The patient, an influential businessman with a dangerous aortic aneurysm, had requested Michael personally, despite the media firestorm. He would not let the man down. Every movement was precise. Every decision calculated. Yet, even here, in his sacred space, Michael felt the scrutiny of his surgical team. They watched him closely, looking for any sign of distraction. He gave them none. The surgery dragged on for hours, testing even his considerable expertise. But finally, mercifully, it was done. The aneurysm repaired. The patient stable. Michael stepped back, allowing himself a breath of relief. Despite everything, he was still the surgeon he had always been. Then chaos erupted. Alarms blared. Monitors screamed. "He's coding. a nurse shouted. Michael spun around, racing back to the table. What had he missed? His mind raced through the entire procedure. Nothing had gone wrong. Nothing. For the next 30 minutes, he fought. Every technique, every ounce of skill was thrown at the problem. But in the end, it was not enough. Time of death, 7:42 p.m. Michael stared at the lifeless body of his patient. He had lost patients before. It was part of the job. But never like this. Never when everything mattered so much. He went through the motions of cleanup in silence. His thoughts roiled. He had done everything right. He was sure of it. So what had gone wrong? Hours later, slumped in his office chair, the full weight of the loss settled over him. This was not just a tragic outcome, it was ammunition. For Olivia. For the hospital board. For everyone who doubted him. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. Standing in the doorway was a petite woman in scrubs, visibly nervous. "Dr. Reeves," she said. "I am Sarah Chun. I work in the research wing. I need to talk to you. It is important." Michael waved her in, too exhausted to even question her presence. But as Sarah began to speak, detailing what she had seen and what she suspected, Michael felt a flicker of something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. Across town, in a sleek high-rise apartment, Olivia Reeves paced the floor. Her heart pounded as she ended a call with her lawyer, who had just informed her about the death of Michael's patient. It was exactly the kind of news they needed to bolster their malpractice case. So why did she feel so sick? The door opened. Daniel entered, his face pale, his usual confident air gone. "It is done," he said quietly. Olivia's heart raced. "You are sure no one saw you?" Daniel shook his head. "No one. But Olivia, this is wrong. That man died. We are responsible." "We had no choice," she hissed, panic rising in her voice. "Michael was going to destroy us. Everything we built, gone. This was the only way." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "But at what cost?" "We tampered with medication. That is not sabotage, it is murder." Olivia flinched. But she quickly composed herself. "It was an unfortunate complication," she said. "Things go wrong in surgery all the time." "Do they?" Daniel's voice was hollow. "Or is that what we are going to tell ourselves so we can sleep at night?" She crossed to the bar and poured herself a large glass of scotch, her hands shaking. "We cannot afford second thoughts now, Daniel. We are in this together. If I go down, you go down with me. Remember that." The fire in Daniel's eyes faded. He nodded slowly. "What is our next move?" Olivia sipped her drink, grimacing at the burn. "We need to protect our finances. The ethics investigation is going to freeze our assets soon. We need to move what we can before that happens." "And the embezzled research funds?" Daniel asked quietly. "We will have to use them," Olivia replied firmly. "It is not ideal, but we have no choice. Once this blows over, we will repay it somehow." As they mapped out their plan, neither noticed the small blinking light on Daniel's phone, resting forgotten on the coffee table. The voice recorder app was still running, silently capturing every damning word. Back in his sparsely furnished apartment, Michael Reeves sat across from Sarah Chun, his mind reeling. "You are absolutely certain about what you saw?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Sarah nodded. "Yes, Dr. Reeves. I have been tracking the irregularities in the research funding for months. And when I saw Dr. Olivia and Dr. Foster in the pharmacy after hours, I knew something was very wrong." Michael leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. Finally, truth was beginning to surface. And this time, it was not just about betrayal. It was about justice. Embezzlement. It was almost laughable. After everything Olivia had already done, now she was stealing from the hospital too? But then, a cold realization swept through Michael, icy and suffocating. If Olivia was desperate enough to embezzle funds, what else might she be capable of? His eyes snapped open. "The patient," he said suddenly. "The one who died on my table. Could they have—" He could not finish the thought. But Sarah seemed to understand. Her eyes widened in horror. I do not know," she stammered. "But now that you mention it, I did see Dr. Foster near the medication storage earlier today. I did not think anything of it at the time, but..." Michael felt a wave of nausea rise. Had Olivia really gone that far? Had she tampered with a patient's medication just to discredit him? As the implications sank in, Michael realized he was standing at a moral crossroads unlike any he had ever faced. If he exposed Olivia's crimes, it would devastate the children even further. They had already lost their trust in their mother. Learning that she was not only a liar, but a thief and possibly a killer could destroy them completely. But if he stayed silent, How many more lives might be put at risk? Michael stood abruptly, startling Sarah. Thank you for coming to me with this, Nurse Chun. I know it could not have been easy. Sarah rose too, uncertain. What are you going to do, Dr. Reeves? Michael's face was grim as he replied, What I have to. The truth has to come out. No matter the cost. As Sarah left, Michael sank back into his chair. The weight of his decision pressed down on him like a stone. He had started this war to expose Olivia's lies, but he never imagined it would escalate this far. The price of truth, it seemed, was far higher than he had ever anticipated. With a heavy heart, he picked up his phone and dialed a number he had hoped never to use. This is Dr. Michael Reeves, he said when the line connected. I need to report a case of suspected embezzlement, medical malpractice, and possible homicide. I will share more details in person with evidence and a witness. As he began to recount what he knew, Michael's mind wandered to his children, the pain this would cause them. But he also thought of the oath he had taken as a doctor, his duty, his integrity. Sometimes being a good father meant making impossible choices. And sometimes the truth came at a terrible cost. But it was a price he had to pay for justice, for his patients, and for the future. When he hung up the phone, a strange mixture of dread and relief settled in his chest. The die was cast. There was no turning back. The war he had started had escalated beyond anything he imagined. But as he stared out the window at the glittering city lights, Michael Reeves steeled himself for the battles yet to come. The truth would come out, and he would see it through, no matter the cost. The sterile corridors of St. Mary's Hospital had never felt so oppressive as they did now. Michael strode toward the boardroom, flanked by Nurse Sarah Chun and his lawyer. Eyes followed him, some curious, others judgmental, all whispering. This was it, the moment of truth. Every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every step in this treacherous journey had led to this. The boardroom doors loomed ahead like the gates of judgment. Michael paused, glanced at Sarah, saw the quiet resolve in her eyes, and nodded. Together, they pushed the doors open. The hospital board sat in grim silence. Faces betrayed a mix of skepticism and concern. At the head of the table sat Dr. Eleanor Patel, the same woman who had placed Michael on administrative leave. Her eyes narrowed as he entered. Dr. Reeves, she began, her voice neutral. You requested this meeting to present evidence, I believe? Michael nodded, his expression unreadable. Yes, Dr. Patel. Evidence I believe will not only clear my name, but expose a far more insidious threat to this hospital and its patients. He gestured to Sarah, who stepped forward, clutching a thick folder of documents to her chest. This is Nurse Sarah Chun. Her diligence has been instrumental in uncovering the truth. For the next hour, Michael and Sarah laid out their case. Bank records showing suspicious transfers, pharmacy logs with glaring discrepancies, eyewitness accounts of strange behavior in restricted areas, and finally, the damning recording of Olivia and Daniel discussing the embezzlement and the patient's death. With each new revelation, the board's expressions shifted, first to disbelief, then to horror, and finally to anger. Dr. Patel's face turned ashen. This is beyond anything we could have imagined, she said quietly. Dr. Reeves, I owe you an apology. We all do. Michael shook his head. No apology necessary, Dr. Patel. You made the best decisions you could with the information you had. What matters now is what we do next. Dr. Patel sat up straighter, her jaw clenched with resolve. We will launch a full-scale investigation immediately. Dr. Olivia Reeves and Dr. Foster's assets will be frozen. Their medical licenses suspended, pending a formal review. She turned to Michael, her voice softer now, almost regretful. As for you, Dr. Reeves, your administrative leave is officially lifted. You are reinstated, effective immediately. Relief surged through Michael, but it was short-lived. His phone buzzed with a message. We know the truth about everything. We need to talk. Ethan, his breath caught in his chest. His children. He had almost forgotten, in all the chaos, that they were the most important part of this war, the ones who stood to lose the most. Across town, in a small cafe far from home, Ethan, Sophia, and Lucas Reeves sat huddled together around a corner table. Their faces were pale, their eyes red-rimmed from tears and sleepless nights. I cannot believe Mom would do something like that, Sophia whispered, her voice trembling. Stealing, maybe even killing someone? Ethan's jaw clenched. I cannot believe any of this. Dad, Mom, those other men. Our whole life, it was all a lie. Lucas, only 10, looked up at his siblings, fear written all over his young face. What is going to happen to us now? Before Ethan could answer, the cafe doors swung open. 3 men entered, strangers, but not unfamiliar. The children recognized them instantly from the photos Michael had shown them at the fateful anniversary party. Their biological fathers. The men approached slowly, their expressions cautious, hopeful. The tallest of the 3 stepped forward. "Ethan," he said gently, I'm your biological father. My name is James." Ethan stared at him, emotion warring in his eyes, anger, confusion, curiosity. "Why now?" he managed. "Why come forward now?" James sighed. "I did not know. Not until Michael told me. If you had, Sophia interrupted sharply. "What?" "Swooped in and played dad? We already had a father. We thought we did. Anyway." The shortest man, with kind eyes and round glasses, stepped up. "Sophia, sweetheart, we are not here to replace anyone. We just wanted to meet you. To let you know that, if you ever need anything, we are here." Lucas, quiet until now, looked up and asked, "Did you love our mom?" The question landed like a stone in the silence. Lucas's father knelt beside him, looking him in the eye. "It is complicated, buddy. But what is not complicated is this. You 3 are amazing kids. We might not have been there before, but we want to be now. If you will let us." The children exchanged glances. A silent understanding passed between them. Finally, Ethan nodded. "We will think about it," he said. "But right now, we need to see our dad. Our real dad." As the children left the cafe, walking into the cold evening, they felt a strange mix of emotions, grief, uncertainty, and a faint glimmer of something else. Possibility. Meanwhile, in his modest apartment, Michael Reeves sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his phone. The message from Ethan felt like both a lifeline and an anchor. He was not sure what the next chapter held, but for the first time in months, he felt ready to face it. Toward a future he both longed for and feared, Michael took a deep breath and typed out a reply. "I'm ready when you are. I love you all." As he hit send, Michael realized that despite the vindication, despite the turning of tables, the hardest part was still ahead, rebuilding the bond with the children he had raised, loved, and in his pursuit of truth almost lost. The reckoning was not over. In many ways, it was just beginning. The law office of Patricia Goldstein was a monument to power and prestige, gleaming marble floors, polished mahogany walls, and an air of silent superiority. But to Olivia Reeves, pacing its plush carpet, it felt more like a bunker. "This was not supposed to happen," she muttered, running her hands through her disheveled hair. "We had a plan. We had leverage." Daniel Foster sat slumped in a leather armchair, his usual charm erased by fear. "It's over, Olivia," he said, hollow. "They know everything. The embezzlement. The patient, don't say it." Olivia hissed, whirling on him, her eyes blazing. "Don't you dare say it out loud." Patricia, watching the meltdown unfold, cleared her throat delicately. I think we need to consider our options. The evidence against you both is substantial." A knock interrupted them. Patricia's assistant poked her head in, visibly shaken. "Ms. Goldstein, Dr. Michael Reeves is here. He says he needs to speak with Dr. Reeves and Dr. Foster." Immediately, Olivia and Daniel exchanged panicked glances. Patricia nodded. "Send him in." Michael entered like a storm contained in human form. Cold, composed, unstoppable. "Olivia, Daniel." His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "It's time we had a talk." Olivia straightened, summoning the last vestiges of her defiance. "Come to gloat, Michael. To see your handiwork up close." Michael's laugh was bitter. "Gloat? Is that what you think this is? Do you even realize what you've done? To me, to our children, to that patient's family?" Daniel stood, his voice trembling. "We can still fight this. We know things that could ruin you just as thoroughly as we've been ruined." For a long moment, the room was silent. Then Michael smiled, a cold, humorless curve that sent a chill down Olivia's spine. "You mean my past indiscretions? The malpractice suit I settled out of court 5 years ago? The drinking problem I had in med school?" Michael's tone was calm, almost conversational. "Go ahead. Tell them. Tell the world. I already have. I disclosed everything to the medical board and to the district attorney." Olivia's face drained of color. "You what?" Michael's eyes locked on hers. "Unlike you, Olivia, I've learned that the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a lie. I've aired all my dirty laundry." "Have you?" He turned to Daniel. What about you, Dr. Foster? Any skeletons you'd like to pull out of the closet while there's still time? Daniel's eyes darted back and forth, panic rising. This was not how it was supposed to go. They were supposed to be in control. I'm here to offer you both a choice, Michael continued. One last chance to do the right thing. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and placed it on Patricia's desk. Inside is a full confession. All the details, embezzlement, tampering with medication, everything. Sign it, and I'll recommend leniency to the district attorney. Refuse, and I promise I will use every resource I have to ensure you face the maximum sentence. Olivia lunged forward, hand raised. You an idiot. After everything we've been through, everything we built, how could you? Michael didn't flinch. There's no we anymore, Olivia. You destroyed that when you chose your own selfish desires over your family, over your oath as a doctor. He turned to leave, pausing at the door. You have until tomorrow morning. Choose wisely. As the door shut behind him, silence fell. The air was heavy with fear. It was Daniel who broke first. I can't do this. I can't go to prison. My career, my life, it's over. Olivia spun to him, eyes wild. Don't you dare turn on me, Daniel. We're in this together. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw it, the same survival instinct that had once made her feel powerful now staring back at her from someone else. Miss Goldstein, Daniel said, voice shaking, I'd like to speak with the district attorney. I have information, valuable information. The words struck Olivia like a physical blow. Her world, so carefully built on manipulation and secrets, began to collapse. Her vision blurred. Her chest tightened. The walls seemed to spin. The last thing Olivia Reeves heard before darkness claimed her was the sound of Patricia shouting, "Call an ambulance." The final confrontation had not ended with a bang, but with the quiet collapse of a woman who had finally run out of lies to tell. The courthouse steps were swarmed with reporters, cameras flashing like lightning strikes. Michael Reeves stepped into the sunlight, his face unreadable. The verdict had been read. Justice had been served. Olivia and Daniel were found guilty on all counts: embezzlement, fraud, medical malpractice, and negligent homicide. The sentences were harsh: 20 years for Olivia, 15 for Daniel, with the possibility of parole only due to Daniel's cooperation. As Michael pushed through the sea of microphones and shouted questions, he spotted a familiar face, Dr. Eleanor Patel, standing quietly at the edge of the crowd. "Dr. Reeves," she called out, her voice calm. A moment, Michael nodded and followed her to a nearby park, the chaos fading behind them. "I wanted to thank you," she said. Exposing the truth, despite the cost, was incredibly brave. Michael's laugh was dry. Brave? I don't know. Necessary, maybe. But it came at a price. Dr. Patel placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Which is why I'm here. The board has been discussing your future. We'd like to offer you a new position, head of trauma surgery at our state-of-the-art facility in Boston." Michael blinked. "Boston?" Dr. Patel smiled. "I think a fresh start is exactly what you need." Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "We heard the news. Can we meet?" Michael's heart clenched. Turning back to Dr. Patel, he said, "I'll think about it. But right now, I have somewhere more important to be." An hour later, Michael sat in a small cafe across from the three people who mattered most: Ethan, Sophia, and Lucas. They looked at him with a complicated mix of emotions: pain, betrayal, confusion, and something else: hope. "So," Ethan began carefully, "it's over?" Michael nodded. "The legal part, yes. But I know we have a lot to work through. If you're willing." Sophia, her eyes red but steady, spoke next. "We've been talking. With each other, our therapist, even with our biological fathers." Michael's heart ached at that, but he stayed composed. Lucas reached out and took his hand. "We're angry and hurt, but you're still our dad. The dad who taught us to ride bikes, who made pancakes on Saturdays, who loved us." Tears stung Michael's eyes. "I do love you. All of you. More than anything." Ethan leaned forward, serious. "Then prove it. Be honest with us, always. No more secrets. No more lies." Michael squeezed Lucas's hand, meeting each of their eyes. "I promise. No more lies. Ever." As the tension softened, Michael told them about the job offer in Boston. To his surprise, the kids did not immediately reject the idea. "A fresh start might be good," Sophia murmured. "For all of us." The next day, Michael sat with his longtime financial advisor, creating 3 trust funds, one for each child. These will be managed by a third party, he explained, to ensure that, no matter what happens, they'll always be protected. As he left the office, trust fund documents in hand, a weight lifted. He could not undo the past, but he could give them stability. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind, packing, goodbyes, logistics. And then came the day. Michael stood in the empty living room of the house he had once called home. Memories rushed in, some beautiful, some excruciating. A knock pulled him from his reverie. He opened the door. Ethan, Sophia, and Lucas stood on the porch, overnight bags at their feet. "We thought," Ethan began, hesitating. "We thought maybe we could spend one last night here. As a family." Michael's throat tightened. He stepped aside, voice thick with emotion. "Welcome home." "I'd like that," he managed to say, his voice low but full of meaning. "I'd like that very much." As they settled in for one last night in their old home, Michael knew it was time for the conversation he had been dreading. He gathered the children in the living room, the trust fund documents neatly spread out on the coffee table before him. "Before we leave," he began, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach, "there's something important we need to discuss." He explained everything, the trust funds, how they worked, and why he had set them up. He told them this was not about control or charity, but protection. A promise. A lifeline. The children listened in silence, absorbing the weight of his words. Their faces reflected a mix of surprise, gratitude, and understanding. "You didn't have to do this," Sophia said softly when he finished. Michael smiled and reached out, gently squeezing her hand. "Yes, I did. You're my children, no matter what any DNA test says. I want to make sure you're always taken care of, no matter what." Lucas, ever the most direct, asked the question that lingered in the air. "Does this mean you're saying goodbye?" Michael's heart clenched. "No, buddy. This isn't goodbye. It's insurance. A safety net. A promise. That no matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, I'll always be here for you. If you want me to be." Ethan, who had remained quiet until now, finally spoke. "We do," he said firmly. "You're our dad. That hasn't changed." The next morning, as they packed the last of their things and prepared to leave for the airport, Michael took one final look around the house. The walls held memories, laughter, heartbreak, birthdays, arguments, love. A life once lived. But as he turned to join his children in the car, he understood something deeply. Home wasn't a place. It was the people you chose to stand beside. The drive to the airport was quiet, each of them wrapped in their own thoughts, holding tight to the memories they were leaving behind and the future rushing toward them. As they neared the terminal, a wave of anxiety swept over Michael. This was it. The point of no return. He parked the car and turned to face them. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "It's not too late to change your minds." Sophia reached out and took his hand. "We're sure, Dad. We're in this together." They walked into the airport, luggage trailing behind them like the last strands of their old life. Michael felt a tangle of emotions, grief for what was lost, hope for what might be, and a fierce love for the 3 people beside him. After check-in, security, and a long walk to the gate, they sat down to wait. Michael looked at his children, really looked. Ethan, almost a man now. Strong, grounded, shaped by pain but not broken by it. Sophia, with her mother's beauty but none of her bitterness, gentle, wise beyond her years, compassionate. And Lucas, still so young, but with eyes that saw everything and a heart wide enough to hold them all. "I want you to know something," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "No matter what happens, no matter where we go, I will always be your father. And I will always, always love you." Ethan nodded, blinking back tears. Sophia leaned in for a hug, pressing her cheek to his shoulder. And Lucas, in a rare burst of public affection, threw his arms around Michael's waist and held tight. When the flight was called, Michael stood and took a deep breath. This wasn't an ending. Not really. It was a beginning. A chance to rebuild, to heal, to create something new and beautiful from the ashes of their old life. They boarded the plane, found their seats, and buckled in. As the engines roared to life and the aircraft began to taxi down the runway, Michael felt a calm settle over him, a peace he hadn't felt in a very long time. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, moments of doubt, but they would face them together. As the plane lifted off, soaring into the clear blue sky, Michael Reeves closed his eyes and whispered a silent prayer for second chances, for healing, and for the love of a family that transcended biology and weathered even the fiercest storms. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in what felt like forever, Michael had hope, and that, he knew, was all that truly mattered.